Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Spilled Beans podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Eric. Today I'm joined by...
Hello, I'm a new member of the Us Spilled Beans podcast. It's me, Prakrit, Shukla, the other brown guy that's not Jahan.
Hi, I'm Gavin. I'm also new here.
Hey, it's Trayln, and I'm not new here. I've been on this for the past 2 episodes, and this is episode 3.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Jordan Peele's Us, which just came out this week. So I was wondering if you guys had any initial thoughts to start us off.
I loved it. Not gonna lie, had me scared shitless the whole time.
Awesome.
You know,
That's what we like to hear.
I thought I was desensitized to horror movies. You know, I've seen my fair share of horror movies, and it fucked me up more than any movie since probably Sinister. Yeah.
It's a big fuck up right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Sinister, The Conjuring, those were the 2 that got me, and then everything in between, completely forgettable. But this one, I already want to see it again, and yeah, it really got to me. All in all, great movie.
Yes, I'd echo that. I mean, Jordan Peele. I mean, he does it again. As far as I'm concerned, he's 2 for 2 right now. I mean, the movie was awesome. Super creepy. I mean, everything I wanted out of it, to be honest. I mean, my expectations were met. It didn't quite live up to Get Out for me, but it was still a great movie.
Yeah, I also went into it kind of following that Get Out sort of wave. I expected a big, heavy social commentary in terms of, things like race relations or some sort of big U.S. problem right now, but I think I came out of it understanding that it's more of a horror film as opposed to a movie that's trying to tell me something explicit. Like, Get Out was really oriented towards race relations in America, whereas this was more sure, it touched on themes of identity and really touched on themes of identity, but it was more kind of more true horror, classic horror. And I think I really saw that more in this one. And I appreciated it a lot. I liked it a lot.
I also really liked the movie on a horror level as well. I thought there was a lot to think about, too, on a deeper level. But I wanted to get into Get Out specifically. Do you guys think your expectations following Get Out either hurt or changed your opinion of this movie in any way?
Yeah, for me, definitely. I mean, I feel like if there were no Get Out, then I think that after Us, it definitely probably would have been a 5-star movie for me. But it's going into it, because Get Out was so good and it was so huge and it was his first movie and it was such a big success, I was automatically you come into it with certain expectations, right? So I felt with Get Out, there were no expectations at all. I was kind of okay, this movie looks pretty cool. It looks interesting, a movie about racism, and it's a horror movie. So I was we'll see how it goes. And then it completely shattered everything and became this cultural phenomenon type thing. And so, I mean, I feel I think it's unfair to compare the two, but I mean, it's naturally what you're going to do, right? And so, I mean, Us for me was kind of this great, unique horror movie. But like I said, Get Out was this huge cultural type thing. And so that's a 5-star movie for me. Us was more of a 4.5.
Right.
And so I definitely think that it hurt my ratings for Us.
Yeah. For me, I had no expectations going into it. I saw Get Out, and I didn't remember loving it. I do want to see it again, for sure. But so I didn't really, go into it thinking, oh, this is going to be another great Jordan Peele movie. And I never saw any trailers for Us. So that was a big thing. I had no idea what to expect.
I was everywhere, dude.
Yeah, even every little scene got me. Even just seeing the family on the driveway. I'm sure everyone in the theater knew that was coming except for me. And I was like, oh, what the fuck?
So
what are they
cool.
doing? Yeah, I was making weird noises the whole time at every scene because everything was a surprise for me. So, yeah.
It was really weird. Yeah, for me, it was. I'm a real bitch when it comes to horror movies. Even the stupid Sinister or even Carrie got to me, and Carrie sucked. And so I was really expecting to get destroyed mentally by this movie, but I didn't get that pounding I thought I would from the horror film. I was just more intrigued because Get Out creeped me out a lot, especially the running scenes where the dude, the caretaker guy, was just sprinting towards him. I was like, oh god, that scared the shit out of me for weeks. But this one, I definitely, because it was more horror tropey. I think there was more of those creepy crawly, like the dude crawling on all four legs, the little boy. I was like, that's more like you wouldn't see that. You see that in another horror movie, for example. So it was more like I was intrigued by what was going on. I wasn't like scared of it.
Yeah, see, I don't remember being scared of anything in Get Out. Like the whole man
Really?
running at him
Wow,
scene.
I was horrified.
That just
dude.
became more of a meme for me.
I think it was just about, I don't know, it was more so just like creepy and funny. Like everything
Yeah.
was kind of like funny though, even though it was creepy at the same time. But it was kind of just like so ridiculous that like, I don't know, it was kind of like funny almost.
Yeah, I think Get Out was more like it was more discomforting. I was like uncomfortable because I imagined like my singular self in that situation because I felt like he was very alone in that situation. But when you were with a family in Us, you had your whole like your mom and dad, your big ass dad. First of all, like he rolled through, and I was like, all right, we're fine. And so, it did me as a viewer, I felt a lot more secure for the characters in the movie.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to talk about is how Get Out is a very like contained movie. It has a lot of like explanations within it, a lot of setup. And this movie is very open ended. There's not a lot of answers at the end. It raises more questions than it answers for sure. So, what were your thoughts on that sort of like structural choice from this movie?
I mean, for me personally, I mean, like, it's kind of like half and half. Like, on one hand, I really like the fact that, like, after the movie, I was literally thinking about it for, like, 2 hours. And then even, like, today, like, I think back to it, like, damn, like, what did this mean? What did this mean?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, I also like things being explained clearly and, like, coming out of it, like, knowing that everything's wrapped up and there's no, like, loose ends or anything. So, I don't know. I'm kind of, like, iffy on the whole thing.
One thing I really liked with regards to how they pulled off the bigger scale was that it didn't start off that way. Like from the trailers or anything I saw, it was like it's gonna be okay, just a mimic of this one family, and that's
Right.
it.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Right.
So I assumed there would be something. The themes would be like, oh, how like maybe black identity. You have to like hide your black identity if you're from the whole world kind of thing. That's what I assumed it was. And then that white, we can't spoil it yet. And then as the movie played out. Did we notice that this is a much, much bigger sort of film in terms of what was going on in the world? And so I know in terms of most apocalypse movies, I looked at World War Z when I thought of it. That shit, like you knew you knew shit went hit the fan immediately because like the first whole big climax in the movie was the whole helicopter thing and everything was just like gone. But in this film, it felt so contained at first that I was like, okay, I can see the fear that these characters have, internally, and it felt contained at first. And then I feel like the reveal was so good when you knew it was bigger. Not that happened.
Yeah. Especially because I felt like, I don't know, I almost felt like after the first official trailer, like I almost felt like the trailers were showing too much almost.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, you can kind of get like a glimpse of what's going on. Like they don't need to show anything. But like to get to the movie and it's like this crazy thing that you never even expected. I did like that. It was cool.
Yeah, I watched the trailer after watching the movie. And I just felt like the trailer showed the entire movie. Without the context of, everything that was going on around it, I don't think you would understand what's going on, but still, don't watch the trailer. If you haven't seen Us, don't watch the trailer.
Okay. So overall, everyone liked it overall, I'd say?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So now I think we're going to get into some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, I think we all recommend that you turn off the podcast and go watch it. Okay.
Yeah, Get Out, guys.
Okay, so I wanted to start with either anything that you were shocked by specifically in the movie or any memorable scenes that you are remembering right now.
So many.
There's a white family getting got,
Okay,
dude.
yeah, that
Yeah,
has to be like
Straight up.
number one.
I had zero expectation of that happening. And then I saw there was like that whole, he had like the fancy ass like glass window house, beach house.
Right.
And the two girls were on the balcony like, hey, mom, dad, what's going on? And then this other headed girl rolls up. And it was like, oh, I did not see that coming. And that was definitely a turning point for me. That definitely changed the scale of the movie, in my opinion.
And I felt like it was coming off like a funny scene almost too. Like it was the thing when like the mom was like telling the girls to go back to her room, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like they're getting stabbed in the neck, and I'm just like, dude, what the hell is going on here? So yeah, no, that was definitely crazy. I think any other crazy scenes.
I mean,
Well, talking about the ending, were you guys like surprised by the
Jumping right
explanation
into it.
for what's going on? Like, what did you think of all
yes,
that?
that was one of my probably, I think, one of the biggest flaws in the movie. I felt like the ending should have been explained a little bit more. It was a little too open-ended, and I would have liked to, better understand what the heck was going on. And like, I was very confused on who was controlling who. Like, were the people underground controlling the people above ground, or the people above ground controlling the people underground?
I kind of got the idea that maybe it was above controlling below, because I remember she said that what they were trying to do was make the people below control the people above. But then when you go back, when they like kind of like flash back to the scene when they're in like the amusement park and like they're showing like the girl walking around under, and you can see like all the shadows like doing what the people up top are doing, I felt like their motions were kind of just like all weird and stuff, and so it kind of made it seem as if like they had to copy what was going up top. And then you also remember when the, not Shadow Lupita, but I guess real Lupita, when she was like, oh, I had to do everything you had to do. Like, I had to like get with this guy. I had to have this baby. I had to have this like C-section or whatever. And it kind of just made it seem to me that she was like had to do everything that, the person above had to do.
Okay.
That's just me.
Yeah. My question regarding that is, and that was another problem I had with the movie, was it's a minor problem, but it left me with a lot to question in terms of the logistics of the underground universe. I didn't understand how you could orchestrate that entire thing, getting all the red suits, getting all the scissors, getting everyone to go on time, especially since no one can really talk to each other like really well, and no one's really sentient. How you can feed everyone,
where'd the scissors and red suits even
and
come
then
from?
they cloned the rabbits or whatever, so you can make the argument. I think they mentioned they survived off the rabbit meat. Yeah. And sure, it just seems like logistically it's like, all right, it's a little bit, you have to make some leaps there, but I think in the end it's like very Twilight Zone-y. You don't have to like, nothing has to be like explained that much for you to still accept the movie. So I didn't care that I did make those logical leaps, even though I probably couldn't make them if I had to. But I think that was fine. The only thing that did strike me as something they should have explained a little more was the fact that when she was a little girl and she went to the Hall of Mirrors and she met the shadow version of herself, and the shadow version ended up choking her and bringing her back down, the real version of her that was choked out, she then lost the ability to control the tethered version of herself. So was that just a result of them switching places? So is the idea that if you are above ground, you are then tethering the person, or the person below ground isn't tethering you? Because she was the real person. She wasn't the shadow little girl up until they switched places. And so, in theory, the one down below would be doing the original actions, and the top one would be mimicking everything, if the rules worked that way. If that makes sense.
Right? Yeah. I didn't even think
so that
about
was the big. I was thinking about that. I was like, but I'm willing to look past that. It's not like nothing huge. So, but when that final twist came, I was like, wait, like what? And so I was just like thinking about that. But another thing about the final twist was, I think almost everyone predicted that would be the thing in the beginning. So we all like saw the two girls meet. I think everyone had the inkling like, okay, they probably switched places at some point. That was probably the thing. But then as the movie,
I'm not gonna lie.
I did not.
I'm terrible with like predicting in movies. I literally just like watch it.
Yeah,
same. I don't think ahead at all.
I think I saw it with like 8 people, and they were like, "Yeah, I thought that was going to be the thing." But the thing with that was, I assumed it would be at first, and then the movie didn't lead me that way because I assumed that the girl was just like, it didn't follow that up at all. So I was like, okay, I guess that's not the case. And then they only touched on it at the very end again, and I was like, oh, okay, so that is the case. So it introduced the idea, I think, and that everyone I was with kind of got that sense, but then it never touched on it again. And so I was like, okay, we were subverted from that, so that ending twist still kind of worked in a way.
I think there's some kind of lead up to that, especially just because Red's the only like other who can speak.
Right, yeah.
Even though it's not like great, like she obviously lost some of her like ability to speak, but there's that, and also she's like the leader in a way of like her family and stuff, whereas like she like tells them all like what to do, and she's kind of like the orchestrator of like all the stuff that goes on, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
So do you guys have any thoughts on what the film's like themes are, its overall messaging?
Right. So going on that, when we were talking about, comparing Get Out to Us, one thing I remember a few weeks ago, I was reading like the initial reviews on IMDb when like 12 people rate it, and I remember seeing everyone give it like 5 stars, and they were saying like, oh, it's another just political commentary from obnoxious political commentary from Jordan Peele. So that was my only expectation of it. But then I felt like there were no real political themes. Like, obviously Get Out was blatantly about, race relations and everything. But in Us, I didn't see anything about race besides maybe that making fun of the white lady for saying it's vodka o'clock. And that was pretty much it. But do you guys think there are any political or social commentary in Us?
I definitely don't think it's racial, but I do think it's definitely a social commentary for sure. Where like the people underground are like the underprivileged, like the lower classes, where they can't like escape their like class. Whenever they try to escape their class, they're fought back down to underground or whatever. Yeah, and then like even just from like the perspective of like Lupita's characters, like her like younger self, when she trades places, like she loses the ability to speak well, whereas like her like tethered version, who like moves up above ground, is able to like learn to speak. She finds a family, she's like living a good life and stuff. Like I think it's just saying a lot about like privilege and like what you can like accomplish when you're given like the tools to
privilege, social mobility. That's a good point.
I think before we stray away too far from Lupita, she did an amazing job.
Yes, she did.
It was incredible.
Yes.
There was just some scenes, it was just like she carried the movie, in my opinion. It was all her.
Just one thing about the themes. The girl that was like sitting beside me in the movie theater, like she was pretty fucking obnoxious. But one thing she did say was that like she thought it was like representative of like slavery almost, which is like kind of reaching. But she was pretty much like the people who were like tethered to like their other person were like slaves to the person that they were tethered to, if that makes any sense. I mean, I guess you can kind of make the argument. It's definitely reaching, but I mean,
I don't like that one as much. No.
Weird.
You could tie like the escalator and the whole like Hall of Mirrors thing to kind of like an underground railroad sort of symbolism thing too, I guess. But I don't know about that.
And that's what I liked about it too. It didn't go for an explicit social message. There's so many things you can pick apart in terms of like the idea of othering. Like you can talk about things like identity, even your own identity. Do you know who you are yourself, and are you hiding a part of yourself, for example? And even in terms of race relations, you could pick apart stuff. And I think I saw an interview with Jordan Peele. I think that's what his intention was a little bit. He didn't want to necessarily like have drive in a theme into the viewer's head. He wanted to leave it open for discussion, kind of like what it harkened back to Childish Gambino and This Is America, that kind of thing. He didn't want to like say this is what it's about, this is what each symbol means in the song. He was kind of like, okay, just talk about it and get what you want from it, kind of thing. And
what the hell did she mean when she said we are Americans?
I wish I knew. I really want to know, but
Jan's giving us directions on the floor. Would you like to make a little cameo? Come on,
get in here. Get in here.
Jehan Narielvala, everyone.
So when she said we are Americans, I really just saw it as like her saying like we're no different from you. And it's just like we are Americans too. We're just like the forgotten people. That's really what I read from the Tether people. I think the social commentary is probably the strongest part of the movie. I think the reason why we can forgive some of the plot holes and things is because the social commentary is very strong in the movie. And I think that so like I said, when she said we are Americans, it's just her way of saying like we are just like you just don't know about us. And that you can see that through the way that Winston Duke's family is living their life and their friends are living their life. Like they're at this beachfront, they got a nice house. Both of them have very lavish ways of living. There's a lot of social commentary, very little things they have, like they got the smart house and things. So there is a commentary to be had about the upper class and the lower class in America and how the upper class just doesn't pay attention to what's happening below. And then at a certain point when the lower class has had enough, the only reaction they know at a certain point is just violence. Like they had to get your attention somehow. And so that's how they ended up doing it. That is my guest feature on this episode. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jehan.
Wait, just one quick question for you guys. It's just like yes or no. Like, do you think you would be looking as much for like themes or any type of like social commentary if it wasn't for Get Out? As in, like, if Get Out did not exist, would you be looking for like certain themes?
No, not at all.
That's a very good point.
And that's what I was kind of like. It's like if it has like certain themes and social commentary or not, like that's fine. But it kind of like, I don't know. I think it's kind of like annoying that like we're only like looking for it just because of Get Out, and we can't just look at it as like its own like unique movie. We have to be like, oh well, he did Get Out, so there has to be something about racism in this one. And I know naturally that's what's gonna happen, but I just want to put.
That's a very good point. And maybe he had no intention to have any social commentary in it, and maybe it was just, he wanted to just be a good horror movie with creepy themes, and just like, practice for his upcoming project on the Twilight Zone. Yeah, that, maybe it's just going more with that, not about social or anything, any commentary.
I'm gonna disagree with that a little. I mean, I don't think the movie makes very much sense without the commentary parts. So, I mean, everything in it is kind of just like serving that part of it. So I don't think it would, like, if you're just looking at the horror stuff, I mean, it's like well done, but I don't think it like adds up to much overall. I don't think. But
I think I was just a lot more too focused for it.
Okay.
I think I would have picked it up regardless, but the fact that I was actively watching and waiting for that message or that sort of social theme to be addressed was, I think, something that was because of Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I definitely would have gotten the message, or some message, if it was some other director.
Yeah.
Another thing regarding just the movie in general, I thought in terms of a horror film, the composition, the background score was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact I looked into it, the composer, this is only his second composition for a film, and his first one was Get Out. And so I thought that was just, it carried the movie so well, and every little detail, every sound, every sort of Foley was fantastic in the film.
The kind of like the mix of like the I got 5 on it or whatever, like I guess like that's like the most popular one of the movie. I did not expect that to work so well as it did, like in the movie. Like I kind of just thought it was like funny, like hearing it in the trailer or whatever, but it actually like worked really well in the movie. So that was great.
Did you guys have any other thoughts on like other performances? Like, I know Winston Duke is a standout as the dad of the movie.
It's funny.
Well, okay, so I know, like most people are probably gonna be like, Lupita, and she was fucking awesome. Like, she was amazing. But dude, Winston Duke made that movie for me, dude. Like, one thing I really liked about this movie was that like it was so creepy, but like the comedic elements were like so perfectly placed, and I feel like the laughs were like at such the right time, and it just worked so well for me. And like Winston Duke just being like this like goofy ass dad, and like he was just so corny, and like some of it was like cringy too, but it just worked for me. And so like I just felt like he was just like always there with like the perfectly timed laughs, like even when you're in this like crazy like creepy moment, like when they're first like talking to the shadows, and he's like saying all this like random shit, like, oh, like I'll give you the boat, or like shit like that. Like, so I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think the comedy was well placed, and I mean, a lot of horror movies, if they're trying to be funny, it just can really take away from the scariness of it. But I don't think that was the case at all in this movie. And just not to go way off topic here, but like I hate in like Marvel movies when they be funny, because it always takes me out of it. You know, it ruins the battles and everything. But anyway, to get back on track, I did not think the comedy in this detracted from the horror elements of it. And yeah, he was a very funny guy.
I think the key scene for the whole comedy horror combination was the Ophelia scene, the little Alexa knockoff or whatever. And while the white mom was saying stabbed in the neck, and she was trying to crawl towards like her husband, she was like, Ophelia, call the police. And I was like, playing fuck the police. It was playing in the background, and she was like crawling and bleeding out on the floor. I was like, oh, that's so well done.
Yeah.
So good.
So I just thought of one other question I had. So the like humans of the movie look one way, and then they're like tethered versions. Either like Lupita's version has like a different hairstyle, like the girl is missing her eyebrows, like the kid is like a burnt face. Like, do you have any like thoughts as to why that is?
What was there anything different about the dad's tether?
I don't remember.
He didn't have glasses.
He had a bigger beard. He had glasses. I think he had a bigger beard or something.
Yeah, he did have a bigger beard.
Yeah. I don't know, probably just to make them look scarier, honestly. Or I don't think there's probably not much there.
Like, is there any like class commentary?
These are the lesser versions of these.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like, not to stretch, but it could be like, these are the people, for example, the kid who had a burned face, people who's someone who could be considered disabled, for example, like, they're like, whether or not we choose to believe it, they are treated less in society. We don't really cater to disabled people as much. Or, the fact that I think because the husband was like a big oaf, everyone assumed he was just some stupid village idiot kind of person, I guess. And even the shadow wife was like, yeah, he's an idiot kind of thing. And she was like shitting on him like, I had to marry this guy. And so I think that could be like a thing about people who are, don't have that privilege initially, them being kind of considered lower in our society. Not to stretch too much, but
This is kind of weird, but low key at first, like I was like, are like the shadow versions like the better versions of them? And this might sound ridiculous, but like when like the little girl's shadow, like when she was like running like away from her, and like the shadows like giving her like a head start and everything,
in the
and
classroom.
she started running after her, and then
Yeah,
she like
bro.
killed the one dude. I was like, are these like the more dominant like higher versions of like the regular people? But that's only like one example of that, so
No.
I don't know how much that holds up.
There's also like the little boy, like the
That's true.
he's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought he was just goofy. I was not scared at all from him. Yeah, no, I didn't. No, I didn't think he was creepy or scary at all. That was the one time where I was like laughing when I felt like I shouldn't have been laughing. When he was like crawling around like a bug and
Yeah,
you know.
that was the time that I was creeped out by that.
Really?
I hate little anamorphic kids crawling around. That's disgusting.
Is there any like explanation as to why his face was like that? Or no?
Well, I mean, the kid had like the like toy, or like the magic toy or whatever, where it would like create sparks. I don't know if like when the kid was underground, like he actually like set his face on fire or something. He couldn't like get anywhere or something.
That
But
makes sense. Yeah.
something like that maybe. But yeah. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about in general? Like any more questions?
I don't think so.
All good for me.
Great movie.
All right. Do you guys have anything you want to plug? Anything you've done lately?
We got any sponsors yet?
Anything?
Like the thing, Swim Media
Anything
Room.
you've been watching recently? I already know what I'm going to plug, but okay, I guess
Go
I'll
ahead,
go
Trayln.
You know, this will be the second time in a row that I am plugging this, but I gotta plug my show, Temptation Island, man. That shit is fucking awesome. If you've watched Are You the One, you know, it kind of like steals Are You the One, but that shit's good as fuck. You know, you got like, what is it, like 3 or 4 couples that come onto this island filled with like 20-something single people, and they got to see if they can like stay together when they're like separated and they're with the single people. That shit's trash, but it's fucking awesome. It's good. So yes, definitely will plug that.
To keep the reality TV train going, definitely watch RuPaul's Drag Race if you get a chance. Even if you think you won't like it, I think you would. Like a lot of people I know have had that experience where like they'll think some type of way about drag queens, but like I don't know, it's just fun
It's really
in general. So,
Yeah. I watched Afterlife on Netflix from Ricky Gervais. I watched it in 2 days. I liked it. It was pretty good. I mean, pretty simple, but I thought it was heartwarming and everything, so I would recommend that. Also, I'm watching Sex Education, also on Netflix. Would also recommend that one.
Bro, when you said Afterlife, not gonna lie, for half a second I thought you said After Earth.
I would never,
one with-
never recommend that.
Jane Smith.
I was like, yo, but never mind. But you didn't say it. So
I would lose all credibility on this podcast if I recommend After Earth.
I saw some Flat Earth documentary. I forget what it's called.
Was it good or
It's called
like...
Trouble with the Curve. No, I don't know what it was called. It was really cool. It followed a bunch of people who actually believed in that shit, and they were like, the thing that was crazy was they were trying to disprove that the Earth was round, but they kept all their research, and they spent hundreds of dollars in this research, and then it was kind of like their conclusion was like, oh man, the Earth is round by this calculation. Oh, I probably did it wrong. And I was like, all right, I guess that's what these people are.
Wait, real quick, did you say they spent hundreds of dollars?
Probably hundreds.
Hundreds of
They bought a protractor, and they were like, it didn't work. They were all like, most of them were just like normal, like suburban moms, like, oh, the government, man.
They probably just put a level on the ground and
Yeah.
They
so,
have a
like,
high-profile supporter, Kyrie Irving, even though I think
Yeah.
he might have gone back.
I think he
on
went
that,
back on that,
but
yeah.
he did. He was all about.
But he also did Uncle Drew, so we can't forgive him.
Oh man,
I
Kyrie
saw that
Irving's a
movie.
flat earther.
Yes, but he might have gone back.
He did go back
I think
on
he
it.
apologized about it too, so that's good.
Man, they still
Yes,
have B.O.B.
Hmm?
B.O.B.
Yeah.
Theo, oh,
The
The
bro,
face of our flat
time out,
Earth society.
Bro, when I was in fucking 6th grade, dude, I thought B.O.B. was gonna be the next big thing. Right? So I don't know about y'all, right? But I used to have like maybe like $10 iTunes cards that I would get every now and then. And so like, you know, you couldn't go out and buy like whole albums and stuff for me personally. So I would have to like listen to like every single sample of every single song, and like if a song sounded good in that like 15 seconds, I'd be like, all right, gotta download it. But this was the first album that I bought his entire fucking album. It was the one with airplanes and magic, and I got like some extra like interview shit, but it wasn't fucking worth it. I just thought he was gonna be this next big thing, and he fucking wasn't. So it was wasted money.
Yeah, well,
Let him be
he's featured in the Spill Beans podcast, so he's pretty up there.
B.O.B. Spends his money on guitars.
All right.
There's anything wrong with that.
Jan, any last thoughts before you head up?
Nah, we're good.
All right.
Eric?
All right. Well, thanks for coming, everyone.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a good week,
Bye.
everyone.
Tune in next week.
Bye.
It's Ira Glass with NPR.
What were you saying in the beginning, bro?
It's Ira Glass from NPR. On today's top story, another trade war.